Hello, good evening. I will describe myself as the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people did. So I'm Daniel, I'm a white man. I'm wearing a brown sweater and jeans.
And I'm Lucas. I'm half English, half Japanese. I'm wearing glasses and I've got a shirt with squares on.
So yeah, as Annie has been explaining, during the summer term in UAL, everybody from the second year and the masters as well is collaborating in UAL. So yeah, there were different projects to choose, and we thought this one was the most interesting for us, designing a accessible instrument.
Yeah, I think the sort of tactile element of actually creating something physical really appealed to us, especially in sound arts. We do a lot of just, I guess, more like musical things. So yeah, creating this instrument was really exciting. And the visit to Drake Music really helped us and inspired us to come up with this concept. So yeah, shall we describe the instrument?
Yeah, I think it was interesting also to approach the world of sound arts, or I mean, to do something more useful, something that is away from the galleries, from the concert venues, and to use our art to do something for somebody who might need it. I mean, this is just a prototype, but it might help to design more accessible instruments.
So yeah, what we have designed is we've called it the Air Soundscape Generator, and the concept behind it is um, sort of taking the like sound art idea of a soundscape and sort of boiling it down into this simple and easy to use sensor based sampler essentially. Um, yeah. Uh,
I think we can maybe hear the instrument
Hear it first, yeah,
now
sure.
and then. So we got eye effect here and three different sounds, which are noise, ambient sounds, and field recordings. These birds. So these three are controlling the volume of the sound, and this is a filter effect. Um,
Yeah, so yeah, we've basically boiled down what we think sort of introduction to soundscapes would be these three sounds, so a field recording, ambience, and noise. Um, and yeah, Daniel's controlling the volume with how close he moves his hand to the sensor. And then we've got a filter effect as well.
So yeah, basically it's just a prototype, but we think it's very accessible for maybe changing different sounds using maybe cellos or violins. So it will be more popular for everybody, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we sort of thought of this as, for our collaboration, we didn't get to actually collaborate with a particular person with accessibility needs. So we sort of just thought of a general, simple design that could help a variety of people with disabilities, and also learning difficulties. I think. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the instrument. We thought that using sensors will be something like it's interesting. Can get to more instruments of this kind. Obviously,
Yeah, taking like the theremin as inspiration, and also the sound beam that we saw at Drake.
So yeah, it could be used to control volume of DJ station, for example, as well. Or, as I said before, we could use like piano sounds or something like that to.
Yeah, I guess like down the line, it would be interesting to be able to load different sounds into it. We also had the idea of like adding a sense of randomness to it, which is quite like common in like sound art improvisation sort of techniques. So having like a select library that would just like randomly, it would filter through when triggering the sensor was one idea.
Yeah, obviously adding like more samples, buttons to change the samples, to change the effects, more sounds. But so far, this is just a prototype, something that could lead to improvements of this kind. It's obviously designed for someone who has reduced mobility on the hands. It could be played with your feet, with your head, or I mean, there's nothing finicky there that it's hard to play. It's obviously very simple, but yeah, I think it's interesting to use. We also saw in Drake music some sensor-based instruments, so I think it's interesting to experiment with.
Yeah, and like from that visit to Drake Music, what struck me was how a lot of them are how a lot of the instruments are designed for like workshops and like learning environments, not just performance. So to me, this I also thought of it as that like. I keep saying like this introduction to sound art sort of thing, but like, yeah, this like simple, easy to use thing that might introduce somebody that would find sound art quite a niche and hard to get into field. They can use it and use it with others. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that fits better with the music we do, Sound As, which is more like ambient music. Obviously, this kind of movements wouldn't fit very well with more like beat focused songs, but yeah, I guess that the ambient music and noise music is something that has its audience as well these days. So, but yeah, it could be improved to other things, other genres, probably in this kind of setup with the sensors.
Do you want to talk about the like the coding behind it, and like, or we could share the photos first?
So yeah, I think we can share how we did it, how we made it. Okay, so how can we stretch this maybe? Okay, so this is how we designed the instrument. So this is an archive on Illustrator, and we have cut this design in the laser cutter, which is a machine that cuts over plywood and also some plastics as well, and it's very useful to create enclosures for instruments, for installations, things like that. So yeah, the design is very simple, obviously thinking that this is something is for someone with reduced mobility. So yeah, well,
yeah, we haven't described the box. So it's rectangular, I guess, in shape, and we've got 4 circles on top, essentially, with the sensors embedded in. And it's also got a hinge to open up into the inner workings and then the Bella board. And it's made out of plywood, as Daniel said, and we've got like the laser cut engravings that that label the noise, ambience, field recording, and effect. Oh yeah, and we have the name on the front. I think we had a bit of an apprentice moment, missed out the S in Soundscape, but yeah, it's just a prototype, I guess.
Oh yeah, this is a big shame that we missed the S of Soundscape, but we had this design in front of us for many hours in class, and we just realized when we went and printed out. So
yeah, and on the back, I don't know if I can. Should I turn it around or?
yeah, if you unplug maybe the jack.
Yeah. So we've got just a little square for the we've got a little square for the USB connection for that's the power, isn't it? And the jack, the mini jack to connect to the mixer. Yeah.
Okay, so
Off the back, sorry.
the way that these sensors work is called ultrasonic or distance sensors. So it's similar to how bats can navigate in the space. And so these sensors are sending a signal, ultrasonic signal, one of the circles that each sensor has. So then when there is an object in between, I mean, one is the sender and the other circle is the receiver. So in here, as we can see, with an equation that comes with the Beta board manual, we can calculate how far are these objects. So here we can see these equations on the left, and then we send them to control the volume in this case. So each sensor is more or less this this piece of code, and it's not as straightforward as it could be the MIDI or something like that. So it's a bit hard to then translate these signals into a natural movement. So we have to try to smooth it as much as possible to make it natural, like it could be a feather or something. But yeah, it's quite straightforward, so we could add it to other, not only volume, but maybe frequency of sound, or changing the sound, something like that, yeah. Then I was in charge of this bit of the coding, and Lucas is who has composed the sounds that are on the instrument.
Yeah, yeah. The sound design element of it. I guess as a prototype, it's not the like set in thing, and I don't know if maybe in the future people could load their own sounds in, but for now, as an example of each three of the sounds, I just well, yeah, the field recording is just like an iPhone recording of some birds by the canal. The ambience, I used a little software plugin or whatever called Pull Stretch, just like stretches recordings to like a very long time, and it sort of has these tonal elements. You can make it more tonal or more noisy, and I just took I forget what recording I used, but yeah, I put that through Pulse Stretch and created that ambience. It's just a little clip, and then the noise, I used a microphone called the Soma Ether, which sort of I think it's like electromagnetic in sounds or interference that it picks up, rather than like a typical microphone, sort of like radio signals and stuff. I think I had used it in a previous project as well, sort of recording the underground, and I used that in this as well. But yeah, the sound design's not really the main point, but that's that. And then, should we show the photos?
Oh yeah, this is the laser cutter. This is looks a bit like a puzzle. So yeah, this is how the instrument was looking before it was assembled. And it's really fun using these laser cutters. We have to say thanks to the 3D workshop at the LCC, which were very helpful with us. And they
Very quick.
Yeah, help us a little bit with setting up the machine and all that. this is the wiring. This is more or less what is inside of the instrument. We are using the Bella board, it's called, which is a device that translates pure data, which is the programming language that I've shown you before. And with the breadboard, we can do a simple circuit there with 4 sensors. The Bella board is also developed here in London in Queen Mary's University, I think. And more or less, I think that's it, really. So if there's any questions about it, but yeah, we hope that this can inspire in some way to create more sensor-based instruments. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So any questions in the room? Yeah, I've got one over there, Julian.
Hi. Is that on?
Oh, sorry, 1 second. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Hi. What's the range and spatial resolution of each sensor? So, like, how far away will it detect, and how much distance will it detect it and change parameters, or is it just an on-off signal for each sensor?
Okay, I think it can read up to 40 centimeters, but this one is capped to 25 centimeters, so this is more or less. Once you go up, one can get confused with the next one, so this is something that could be improved. But yeah, I mean, you can measure it there, but it is very precise, really. I mean, it's how you develop the code mainly. I mean, because this is sending every 60 milliseconds, it's sending but you can send them any speed you want, really.
I suppose what I'm getting at is whether you could use it as a virtual string instrument, or say, like, within the same sensor, you can play at different pitches, because then that would be actually very, very useful over some of the existing technology that's out there. You could probably use an acoustic coupler to improve the resolution for each string as well. There was something else I was going to ask, but I've forgotten. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, definitely. It is very precise, really, but it depends how you code it to work. I mean, it works at light speed, so it depends how you send these signals and how you work it out to make it work nicely. But it does what it does. It sends the ultrasonic signals, and the other one receives at a very, very, very fast. So
yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at pure data, but are you outputting MIDI signals to a standalone, synth, or is it using an internal thing within pure data?
It's not MIDI, because MIDI just goes to 127.
Yeah, okay.
And this is, I mean, it doesn't have a specific range.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can go very, very precise. Everything depends how you work it out.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of using as a controller, if you add on MIDI compatibility, it would expand quite a lot what you could do with it, because you could then use it for lighting and other stuff like that as well. And that'd be very useful. The other thing I was thinking about was, it can be quite difficult keeping your arms up like that for a while. So it may be also worth looking at other alternatives like button boxes and arcade type joysticks, and then using something like Joy to Key to translate that to other inputs for things, and that the combination of that could be very, very powerful.
Yeah, that's a very good point, to make this into a MIDI instrument, which has got implemented these sensors, so you can translate it into MIDI and then control the parameters that you want. Yeah, that would be a very good point. Yeah.
Great. Got another question just over here. Are there any questions on Zoom as well? Yep. Okay, we'll come to Zoom next after this.
it looks like it's a good device. Would you have plans for marketing for people who have profound learning disabilities? Because it looks really, really good. Cause like it's something. If you could, like, I don't know, if you could control the volume and all of that, like the way your colleague was. It's something that someone with a profound learning disability in a sensory room, yeah, you probably have them. You'd have them really interested in that. I'm not joking about. I'm being serious. You know, 'cause it's good. It's the way you could, and all of that. Especially if you had like something like if you could like get a didgeridoo sort of effect. Where you're like, you know, all that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's something that was important to me. Like, it's not just a physical disability that I feel like this can be used by, and like, oh, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, I guess we've done this mainly for our unit in college. I don't know if we want to go further with. I mean, there are more things that I'd like to make it more advanced in ways. Actually, so yeah, I just remembered what I was going to say as well. I quite like the sort of movement element of it. I think it's quite important. Like, a lot of instruments, well, like acoustic instruments, most use some sort of movement to create sound, whereas, you know, electronic instruments don't have that same essence, and I feel like introducing that, like we saw with actually in the Drake music, they were like trombones or like oboes and harps that, you know, are in the shape of the actual instrument but are more accessible to use. So I feel like we didn't just, you know, make bigger buttons. We wanted to have like an instrument. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's super intriguing. I think the playfulness of it as well. It seems quite a open, interactive thing, right? The sensors you built. I think, yeah, it's got my mind going on the world of opportunities. So, yeah, I've got one quick question. This is your prototype. Do you think you have any sort of next steps for the development of it? Are there any things that you're thinking, right, we want to do next?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd love to bring it further, but this has been just an exercise, as he said, for the university. But yeah, with more time and more trial and error practice, you can get to much better results. But yeah, I want to use sensors on my third year as well, so that's why I wanted also to experiment with. But yeah, obviously, yeah, using these sensors more in the future. I don't know if in the form of an instrument, but yeah, it will be great to keep developing, but obviously you need time and patience as well.
Well, yeah, hopefully people can contact you. The community here, I think that's the benefit of DMLab. There's a whole community out here that would love to probably give you feedback or thoughts, or, you know, I think there's opening that dialogue here. So, you know, if you are thinking of developing it further, or for your next project even, it might inspire some ideas. But yeah, pass over to Deborah if you've got a question on Zoom.
Yes, hi. So MPOT has said, maybe this was said already, but is it possible to map it to maybe DJ software like Native Instruments Tractor, for example, to adjust effects or EQ parameters?
Yeah, you can map it to anything you want, really, because Pure Data is a DSP, which is a digital signal processor, so you can manage any kind of sound features there. But I don't know how to, I was thinking today into doing the MIDI stuff, but I don't really know yet if there is a way with the Bella board, because these things, they're not analog, so you always have to go through the Bella board in this case, or Arduino, things like that. And I don't know the implementation with MIDI, but as the other guy said, it would be really nice to make something that is easy to program with the sensors and adapt it to your style or your device. But I'm not well documented yet.
Great, we've got a question just over there.
Hi, I want to pick up and go back to something my colleague over there said about, you were saying about imagining it in a sensory room with people labeled as having profound and multiple learning difficulties. I'm just going to frame my interest and perspective because I think that's useful. I'm an artist, my name's Rhiannon Armstrong, and for the last 5 years I've been doing sound and music collaborations with colleagues who don't have language as a primary means of communication. The kinds of people who you were talking about who make use of sensory rooms, are in specialist schools, have complex barriers to access. And it means I'm always looking at how power and normativity and access barriers reassert themselves. Because so much stuff is like so close to being useful and then so inaccessible in certain ways. And I just wanted to, I suppose, raise the specter of some things that, from my perspective, would immediately make that box more accessible. The main one being a differentiation, a visual differentiation between the four sources of sound. I've done that thing where I haven't asked a question and I'm sorry, but I just wanted to bring more of that perspective in the room for people, because the name of tonight was accessible DJing and collaborative instrument design, and so it's drawn a very broad range of people, and I'm maybe quite on a fringe. There's another way that normativity is reasserting itself in here through the choice of sounds that are deemed soundscape sounds. And so I suppose I'm putting it out there, if you were to continue in this work, to really seek consultation with people who face really the most barriers to accessing sound making and instrument making. Because I think quite quickly you will realize some of those things. And then there's something else about whether you're seeking to remove one barrier for someone to participate in an existing system, or whether we're removing barriers for participation so that people's participation in sound art and electronic music can change what that is and what it's understood to be. So yeah, I just wanted to put some of that in the room. Sorry for not asking a question.
No worries, thank you for that. That was, Yeah, obviously, we're very new to instrument design, and also this was the first time we've ever touched on like accessible design as well. We had like a lecture from Megan Steinberg, I think, from like Manchester, and yeah, she introduced us to all these models of disability and design and performance, and she was particularly into scores and how obviously like it's very hard to make something accessible for like a general group of people. Like we obviously couldn't collaborate with a specific person, but I think maybe that going into the future would be more conducive, maybe.
Yeah, I think that there's a tendency now to make things more accessible and more intuitive and physical than before, because no one likes to play like very small buttons and things like that. But yeah, it's a tendency.
Great, lovely feedback. Another question in the room here? I'll bring your microphone.
Thanks. Just very quick, can you use any other sort of input to this Bella board? So like eye tracking movement or brain waves, or I'm thinking of profoundly. Is that possible? I don't really know what a Bella board is, but yeah.
I don't know. I think there's devices now who can read like brain messages. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things like that. I mean, these are the sensors. There are thermal, which change depending on the temperature as well. On the light, those are very common, very old, photosensitive sensors. But yeah, also with the electrical signals from the brain. I think there are devices who are already working with this kind of signals for music purposes already. And I don't know how to use them, but obviously with the right device that can read these signals, I don't think it will be complicated. I mean, these days with the internet, you can investigate any of these techniques and technologies. But yeah, it's interesting because obviously there is some kind of radiation and a lot of different waves that comes from our bodies that cannot be seen, and they could be used to control DJ equipment or synthesizers or the pure data, all these kind of things. Yeah.
Great, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. But once again, thank you very much, Daniel and Lucas, for sharing.